Okay, so the goals of this video is fairly quick. I wanted to add an additional bit of information, some best practice in terms of setting up an SMB share and also mounting it to a local client or a local PC. So in the previous video, we set it up an SMB share, if you remember, as a guest um, share so that anyone could log in, and we can show that real quick. So going to the SMB, if you'll remember, we set up this particular share, this FN share, and if we edit it, you see it has allow guest access, and if you remember in the advanced mode and going through the ACLs of this particular share, we set it so that anyone could access it. What I want to show today is a better way to set up a share so that people at least have to enter in a username and password. It makes it a little bit more secure for you. It makes it more secure for your data, and is really the better way to set up a new share. So we'll go back to storage. Go to our pools. We'll close the first pool. We'll use the second pool. Inside here, we set up this extra data set as a user group. I'm going to add one more sub data set. Okay. So we're going to add this data set. I can call this a user2. It could be named anything really. And we'll save that. Close this. This is the other pool. This is the new pool that we're working off of right now. Inside of file share, we can expand this. We have user2 and user group. User group is the share that we already shared out. User2 is the user group that we just set up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to permissions. We're going to change the owner. Okay. So we have this one owner over here. This one user is called NAS test. And before I change it, let me just go over here and show you where to change that or add that. If you go into users, you can add a user. And inside the user, you can add the user's full name, their username. What's optional is the email. Anything with a star is absolutely a must. And then you add a password for that user. Okay, now you can set directories and permissions. You can set their home directory, etc., etc. All of this is perfectly fine for when the user would log into the system as if they were logging into the FreeNAS. What we're going to do is not worry about any of that, and I can show you if we go back to users, edit NAS test. So without adjusting any of the settings which are already set, we have this NAS test, we have an email, we have a password already set. It's actually the same as NAS test. It's just a dummy user group. And all of this is set to everything else is set to the defaults, okay? So the home directory non-existent, no mount or anything to especially set. But what we can do is going back to the storage and our pools. And we'll just collapse that. Expand this. Go to this user2, which is the new data set. Edit permissions. But what we're going to do is we're going to use NAS test to change the owner. Okay, so we do a NAS test, storage group. We can set this NAS test. We can actually leave it as wheel. From a group perspective, it shouldn't matter too much because wheel is really a root group. And we'll log in using the NAS test ID. So we'll just set this up. Okay, so now we're going to create another SMB share. And go under here into the storage 2, file share, user 2. We'll create another SMB share. We'll call this NAS test. Disable all these other options so nothing else is allowed. Okay, no guest access, nothing. We'll save it. Configure now. And we'll go into the ACL configuration, but we're going to use the same default configuration. So this is all the default. So what this does is only the owner has read, write, append data, only has the read, write, and execute data access. The groups, they would have the read and the execute, and then the guest, they would also have the read and execute, but they can't change any data inside. Okay, so we'll just leave it as that, as the defaults. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to open the file manager. Again, we discussed this previously. On Linux, we type in SMB // on Windows, you type backslash because Windows uses backslash. We go SMB : / the IP of the FreeNAS / and then we use that NAS test because that's the name of the SMB share we gave. We try to connect. Okay, so previously we could connect anonymously. That's not going to work because we didn't set up guest access. So we have to type in the username of the NAS, which is NAS test. And the password should also be NAS test. Okay, so we're in. It's mounted. If we want to create a bookmark in Linux, we can just create a shortcut so that next time we log on, assuming this NAS is still available, we can just go into here. Let's try to create a folder. Create. We can create that. Let's try to create a document, or actually let's just try to copy some files. Real quick. So we'll go under pictures. A little bit of a slow network connection, but they copied. We open this. And you can see this beautiful beach picture. And that's on the NAS. Now if we want to prove it, what we can do is go over here into the shell. And here in the shell, you can actually see the pictures. So on the FreeNAS, it does have the pictures. We can access it. And the nice thing about this way of doing things is that everything is password protected. So you're using the actual user to log in. And if you're sending this network out or a share to many users, as long as the users log in with the same username and password as the owner of that particular data set and that particular by de facto default share, then they can access all of this information. It's honestly a lot easier than trying to play with the user groups and permissions. And if you're okay with having every user access the share, using guest access, then this is probably even easier as long as you're able to allow users to understand what the username and password is when they log in. Again, when you're first logging in, but if we were first logging in to this particular server and this NAS test, and it prompts you for the username and password, any user that wants to log in, as long as they can enter in the username and password over here, it's fine. If they don't have the username and password, then they won't be able to log in, and that will cause issues. So it's a much safer way. It's in a lot of ways a much easier way than trying to deal with all the different permissions. As long as you have a global owner for that particular share, then you have a password secure way of sharing data across your network. So that was just a quick sort of better practices way of sharing data rather than just sharing everything as a guest, and I hope it's helpful for you. So thank you very much.